based on our survival priorities, the mechanisms of heat loss, and the 4 critical lessons learned, I've developed 6 cardinal rules for the backcountry that I apply that serve me very well over the years. Rule number 1 is that you want to stay dry and you want to dry out as often as you can. You want to take advantage of those opportunities. So if you hike to the top of a ridge and you sweat out your base layer, you want to make sure that you put a puffy jacket on and you're drying that base layer out. If you get wet and damp from hiking around, when you get into your tent at night, you want to make sure that you take advantage to dry your base layers, to change your socks out, and dry everything overnight. The drier you are, the warmer you be, and the warmer and drier you are, the safer you be and the more focused you can be. Now, in that vein, rule number 2 is you want to make sure that you're carrying rain gear and a puffy jacket, even if you're just going out for the day. So even if you leave your spike camp and you're just going to go to the glassy knob, or you're just going to go chase that mule deer, you're just going to go chase that bugle, you want to make sure that you have rain gear and a puffy jacket, because often you will not return to camp as quickly as you think. That stalk's going to last longer, you're going to be up on the glassy knob longer, you're going to want to drop down and get some water, or something along those lines. You're going to kill that buck at last light and you're going to get stuck out overnight. If you have rain gear and you have a puffy jacket, you have the capacity to capture body heat, to dry out, to seek some shelter with that clothing, and that rain gear is going to provide protection if it does start to rain or snow. Now, the third rule is you want to have the capacity to make some type of shelter besides just your clothing. So if you're carrying your camp on your back, you probably have a tent. But oftentimes we're not going to have that camp on our back. So we want to make sure we have a tarp, an emergency bivy sack, or an emergency space blanket. We want to make sure that if we don't have those, we have the capabilities and the skill set to build some kind of improvised shelter, like an A-frame or a lean-to, or at a minimum be able to duck under vegetation and get under a spruce tree to seek some kind of shelter. But we don't just want to go out and hike around the wilderness without having some ability to seek shelter, understanding that that is our number 1 survival priority. Now, the 4th cardinal rule is that you want to have the capacity and the mindset to be able to spend 24 hours away from camp. So when you step away from that tent, when you step away from your truck, you want to make sure that you can spend 24 hours away from that camp. Now, that's not to say you should carry a whole bunch of extra gear. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if you understand your survival priorities, if you understand the way the body loses heat, then you understand that you need to have a proper clothing system. You need to have some food and water. You need the ability to seek shelter. You need to have a survival kit that allows you to create a fire. You need to have a med kit that takes care of basic medical issues. And you need to have the knowledge and the mindset to go, okay, if I do kill that buck at last light, that I can sit on the buck, I can build a fire if need be, and in the morning we can finish quartering it up and get it back to camp. Or if we're hiking back to camp and we get cliffed out, and the best course of action is to sit down because we're in dangerous terrain and wait for first light, we're going to do that, and we're not going to start to panic or think, man, I better get back to camp because I'm wet, I don't know how to dry out, I don't know how to warm up. That's what I'm saying. You need to have the capacity when you step away to be able to spend 24 hours out. It might not be the most convenient, but it's not going to become a true survival situation. It may just become more of a inconvenience. The next one is you always want to try and improve your situation. So what do I mean by that? So we set up camp, we hike in, we set up camp in the dark. The next day we realize the camp's not in a great spot. Maybe if it's raining, there's water running through camp. Maybe it's exposed to wind, or snow's blowing over the ridge and burying our camp. Or we're up on a glassy knob and we're exposed to wind or exposed to rain. We always want to make sure that we're improving our situation. If we start to go downhill mentally, physically. We want to start sure we're making our way back to camp. We're cutting that distance. We're improving our situation and getting closer to safety. We always want to try to always improve our situation anytime we can, be it in normal living or any kind of contingency. And the sixth cardinal rule is you want to make sure that you do not become too physically or nutritionally depleted before you stop and rest and reset. So this is something that I've had to learn multiple times over the years. I want to hike 5 hours and get to camp. I don't want to stop. The problem is if you are 4 hours on your way to camp and you break your ankle, you sprain your knee, some contingency happens, you get benighted. If you are physically or nutritionally depleted and now you have to go through and fight for your life or spend the night out and you don't have enough calories in your body to create the body heat required to stay warm, you may not be able to dig yourself out of that metaphorical black hole. So what's better is to maybe hike for 50 minutes, stop for 10. When you stop for 10, you put a puffy jacket on, you dry out your base layer, you drink a little water, you eat a little food, you look at the map and assure where you are, you talk to your partner. That's a better course of action. If we become so physically depleted or nutritionally depleted in this very uncompromising environment and something happens that we are not planning on, it may catch us and we're so far in the hole we may not be able to dig ourselves back out. So these 6 cardinal rules have served me well after 30 years of running around the mountains, hiking, climbing, skiing, backcountry hunting, and teaching. These are the lessons that I've learned and I apply to myself. These are my 6 cardinal rules for the backcountry.